I say either give it back or shut the fuck up. AOC says so many people in this country hate women. Oh, geez. Even the guy at the party who pulls out a guitar is like, way to ruin the fun. Congressman Jamal Bowman says capitalism is slavery by another name. No, it's not. It's the thing that has given more people more prosperity and hope than any other system, flawed though it surely is. Say something about America that you like, because honestly, I don't know why the people who are fighting for this country so hard even want it anymore.
Bill Maher has launched a fierce attack on AOC over what he sees as glaring hypocrisy, and the contrast is impossible to ignore. The blunt comedian went directly for the weak spot, calling out the Democratic Party's rising star for condemning America the moment Republicans take the helm. In her eyes, the country suddenly transforms into the most terrible place imaginable, beyond any redemption. But Maher sliced right through that contradiction and held her own statements up to scrutiny. So if sharp political commentary is what you're after, hit that subscribe button and let's jump straight into it.
A more pertinent question to ask about the word woke might be, why in such a short time has it gone from a rallying cry to a pejorative? If the word only made you think of rational, deserved causes like teaching a less whitewashed version of American history, AOC would still want to own it. But it's a joke, because it makes you think of people who wake up offended and take orders from Twitter, and their oversensitivity has grown tiresome. That said,
Maher pulls no punches as he targets AOC's earlier embrace of woke politics, describing it as a repackaged version of liberalism that has worn out its welcome. He contends that the sudden backing away from that label isn't accidental, it's deliberate. According to Maher, personalities like AOC are distancing themselves from the term because it no longer connects the way it once did with mainstream voters. Not so long ago, she was visible at demonstrations and gatherings, openly leaning into the language and imagery of the woke movement, wearing it almost like a symbol of pride. Now, that very same label appears to have grown politically inconvenient. Maher suggests this shift has nothing to do with a genuine change in values, but everything to do with optics, adjusting the message to match the mood of the electorate. In his estimation, it raises a deeper question about honesty and whether this rebranding signals true personal growth or simply a calculated maneuver to remain politically viable.
That said, I would love to have AOC on this show. There's so much to admire there. I was one of her first supporters for the Green New Deal idea. But that will probably never happen because Democrats don't go anywhere these days where they're not pre-adored. And that's my last bit of advice to them. Go where the amen corner isn't. Do Fox News. Be brave. Come here. Go everywhere. Winning is about expanding the electorate.
Maher has openly extended an invitation for AOC to appear on his program. But realistically speaking, she's unlikely to accept it. Why? Because Maher doesn't toss easy questions. He asks pointed, uncomfortable things that push guests well beyond their carefully rehearsed talking points. And we've already seen what unfolds when AOC ventures outside her controlled environment. Recall when she traveled overseas for a summit and faced questions she wasn't adequately prepared to handle? The situation turned uncomfortable rather quickly, revealing how differently things can go without a supportive crowd or a familiar script. That's precisely why critics say she gravitates toward media platforms that share her perspective. It isn't simply about messaging, it's about maintaining control. On a show like Maher's, that control is never guaranteed, and the risk of being challenged in real time is considerably greater. That kind of stage is where carefully constructed narratives can collapse rapidly under scrutiny.
And finally, new rule, you don't really love America if you hate half the people in it. And also if you hate a lot of the things that everybody always loved about it. There's an oft-repeated moment in political debates where the moderator says to the two candidates, say something nice about your opponent.
Can you say one nice thing, something that you admire about your opponent?
Say something nice about Representative Deal.
Tell us something that you admire about your opponent.
Can you say something nice about your opponent?
I mean, it's always so awkward because the candidates just spent an hour describing how America would be an out-of-control dumpster fire if the other guy won the election.
Maher zeroes in on what he believes is the genuine reason figures like AOC appear to harbor resentment toward America. It isn't the country itself that draws their frustration, but rather the people within it, or at the very least, half of them. He argues that whenever political opponents hold power, the nation suddenly becomes beyond saving in their view. According to Maher, AOC and those aligned with her rarely offer balanced criticism or practical solutions. Instead, their messaging frequently devolves into relentless outrage simply because their side isn't running things. He frames this as a pattern of automatic opposition, where every decision made by the current administration is met with immediate condemnation, regardless of context or results. Maher suggests that this sustained state of alarm has moved beyond policy altogether. It's become politics driving perception, and perception constructing a story that casts America in the darkest possible light.
Moderator needs to frame that question a little differently as, say something about America that you like, because honestly, I don't know why the people who are fighting for this country so hard even want it anymore. Republicans, I'll start with you. I really want to know. That is what's so odd about this time that we're living in. For all the talk about fighting for the soul of America, nobody seems to like it very much. Too many liberals give the impression that to them, America is just a big, ugh. The red, white, and ew.
Maher is correct. Many liberals like AOC simply don't view America today the same way they did under Biden. To their eyes, Trump is steering the nation straight toward disaster. They no longer recognize their country because their preferred leader isn't at the wheel. They highlight past struggles, inflation surges, border crises, growing crime concerns, and foreign policy missteps under Biden, while dismissing the improvements that Trump's supporters credit to his administration, including stronger economic indicators, stricter border management, pushes toward energy independence, and a more forceful presence on the world stage. Even so, many lean far more on emotion than on steady, measurable benchmarks, evaluating outcomes based on who occupies office rather than on concrete results. That gap fuels a continuous cycle where perception overrides reality and every new development gets processed through a partisan filter, cementing existing beliefs instead of testing them against evidence or wider context. This way of thinking makes compromise virtually unattainable, deepening national division and transforming political debate into an endless clash of competing narratives rather than a genuine pursuit of truth.
A country that started out bad and will always be bad, founded on an unrelenting history of sucking and unable to change. But we have changed a lot. Democrat Cori Bush tweeted, "This land is stolen land and black people still aren't free." And this was on the 4th of July. Really? Not that I give a shit about the 4th of July. I've never been a rah-rah guy. But I am a perspective guy. And that's what too much of the left has lost, perspective.
Maher is right to argue that segments of the left have lost their sense of proportion. In many instances, they find it difficult to acknowledge progress when it occurs, particularly if that progress doesn't fit their political preferences or reinforce their narrative. Criticism in this sense evolves into something beyond simple analysis. It becomes a form of validation, a mechanism for strengthening group identity and signaling moral superiority. The problem is that when outrage becomes routine, it gradually eclipses objectivity. There is always something to be offended by, always a fresh issue presented as evidence that everything is crumbling. Over time, this manufactures a cycle in which progress gets dismissed, nuance gets discarded, and every development gets filtered through a lens of negativity. Maher's observation cuts deep. When anger becomes the default setting, the goal is no longer improving the nation. It becomes sustaining a frame of mind that feeds on dissatisfaction rather than acknowledging when circumstances might genuinely be improving.
72% of black people under 30 are optimistic about their future in America. Way more than white people the same age. And as far as the land goes, yes, I guess we could change the name of Captain America to Captain Stolen Land. But honestly, to all the people who start every public event now with one of those land acknowledgements where they say, "I'm standing on land that was stolen from the proud indigenous people of the Chumash tribe," I say either give it back or shut the fuck up.
Maher pushes back against claims that Black Americans remain trapped in hopelessness in today's America, arguing that this perspective ignores meaningful advancement. While real challenges undeniably persist, it is equally undeniable that substantial progress has been made since the turbulent and painful decades of the 1960s and 1970s. Doors in education, business, politics, and culture have opened in ways that once seemed completely out of reach, and many Black Americans today express genuine hope about what lies ahead. That broader story of perseverance and achievement, however, frequently gets buried. Critics contend that some voices on the left are less inclined to highlight this progress, choosing instead to focus almost entirely on suffering and grievance. The concern is that a one-dimensional narrative can keep communities anchored in frustration rather than empowerment. When the conversation consistently omits progress, it risks distorting the full picture and overlooking the very milestones that could inspire continued advancement, greater unity, and forward-looking momentum.
AOC says so many people in this country hate women. Oh, geez. Even the guy at the party who pulls out a guitar is like, way to ruin the fun. Congressman Jamal Bowman says capitalism is slavery by another name. No, it's not. It's the thing that has given more people more prosperity and hope than any other system, flawed though it surely is.
The drawbacks of socialism have been examined before, so there's no need to revisit every argument, but it remains striking how frequently certain Democrats continue to present it as a better alternative to capitalism. The reality, however, is far more complex. Nations commonly cited as socialist models, Venezuela, Cuba, and North Korea, have repeatedly wrestled with economic instability, widespread shortages, and stunted growth, though each situation also involves contributing factors like international sanctions, governance failures, and global isolation. That said, the central question still stands. If a system consistently produces hardship when put into practice, why does it continue to be promoted as the solution? At the same time, it's worth acknowledging that no modern economy operates as purely socialist or purely capitalist. Most function as hybrids, blending market dynamics with government involvement. So the debate shouldn't be reduced to slogan trading. It should center on outcomes, evidence, and what genuinely improves people's daily lives, not merely what sounds compelling in theory or generates energy at a political rally.
Again, something like the free market is kind of synonymous with America. And if you don't like it, I don't know how you can say you love this country. You know who loves this country? You know who's not constantly complaining about what happened 200 years ago and who's not obsessed with seeing America through shit-colored glasses and shaking off the stench of what irredeemable privileged assholes we are? Immigrants.
And Maher is absolutely right on this. People throughout the world would sacrifice nearly everything for the opportunity to set foot in this country. They recognize opportunity, stability, and a real chance to build something meaningful for themselves and for their families. They value the institutions in place, the availability of employment, the freedom to pursue ambition, and the possibility of converting hard work into success. For many immigrants, that promise isn't abstract, it's something they actively chase, often at significant personal cost. Yet critics point out that some on the left seem hesitant to fully acknowledge just how much opportunity exists here. Rather than recognizing those advantages, the focus frequently remains fixed on shortcomings and imperfections. Of course, no nation is without flaws, and thoughtful criticism has its rightful place. But when it becomes unrelenting and one-directional, it risks drowning out the larger truth. Maher's point resonates, perspective matters, especially when so many people across the globe still view America as a destination worth sacrificing everything for.
Ask any of them why they came here, and they will tell you the same thing. Ron DeSantis put me on a plane. But they will also tell you that America, for all that's so shitty about it right now, is still the last best hope. And those people asking for our votes to take it over should remember.
AOC and her political allies are pushing aggressively to reshape the trajectory of this country. Yet according to their own words, it is a place riddled with deep flaws, even irredeemable at times. That very contradiction is precisely what Maher hones in on. If America is as broken as they insist, why the relentless ambition to control its future? Maher raises a pointed and legitimate question: how does one aspire to lead a nation while openly expressing contempt for a substantial portion of its citizens? It creates a tension that simply cannot be brushed aside. Leadership, after all, demands persuasion, the pursuit of unity, and at minimum some degree of respect for those one claims to represent. When political messaging leans so heavily on division, it risks pushing away the very citizens whose trust is absolutely essential to govern with any effectiveness. Maher's critique cuts cleanly through the noise, challenging whether this entire approach is genuinely about reform or simply about the pursuit of power, untethered from the contradictions embedded within the message itself. And on that note, we bring today's video to a close. If you found it worthwhile, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.